Your show's rubbish.
1 2 1 2. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Trout Spinners podcast with Miles Pennell and
already?
Gary Forrest. Well, yes, this is it.
Oh, right. Oh, I thought we were going to do. We usually do some testing. Like you usually say, "Oh, we'll do a bit of testing." Can you just speak for 30 seconds, please?
No, gotta get through this, man. Got to get through this. We're on a timer. We're on a timer.
We're actually doing this later than usual. It's evening. It's evening time. We usually record in the day, but yes, welcome. I'll say welcome as well. You said welcome.
Right.
Welcome to the lovely listeners. It is D Trout Spinners, and it's another episode and another normal episode. Now, I'll say at this point, maybe we won't say what I don't think we should say, but there might be a little bit of a special coming up next week. So stay tuned. We won't say just in case, just to make sure it's happening.
Why don't we do it at the end? Why don't we say at the end? Then it's a tease. It's a big tease
so
that people will wait. Yeah.
Or they could just skip 50 minutes.
We could do that.
Well, we might say at the end. I wasn't sure if we should say just in case it doesn't happen. But anyway, let's discuss that at the end. How you doing, Miles, this week?
Oh, I'm good, man. It's all about this wedding that I'm going to on the Sunday. Had to go out and treat myself to some new clothes, which I don't buy clothes for myself that often. But every now and again, your wardrobe needs a refresh. And I didn't quite realise how out of date my wardrobe was because I haven't actually bought anything that isn't homeware. So I had to buy kind of poncy clothes for this wedding. So I'm quite nervous.
Sure you're going in a suit, surely?
No, it's not like a really
Oh, it's one of those
affair.
Oh yeah, just wear cash, like people's funerals where they say, "Oh, dress up as a flower." Everyone dress up in bright colours.
You do dress up.
Incidentally, everyone in black, mourning, sad, no happiness, no displays of emotion through colour.
That's how you live your life anyway, so it's not that different.
Yeah.
And you've got one suit that you wear for everything, don't you? Weddings, bar mitzvahs.
Oh, no,
funerals,
I've got a couple of.
Posting.
I just have one set of white t-shirts, one set of black t-shirts, and one set of grey t-shirts. And
you're
one
like Simon Cowell.
top.
Simon Cowell's got the same outfits as you, I think.
I am a bit. We meet up a lot, him and I. We meet up for dinner.
Cowell. How's your week?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. My hairdresser's moved to France for at least a year. I'm gutted.
Gavin?
He's cut my hair for little French fella. He is actually a little French fella. He's not little. He's quite big, quite muscly. Yeah. But he's gone. Yeah, I don't know what to do.
It's a really difficult thing when your stylist leaves another country or just
this is such a third world problem. It's a really difficult thing when your stylist leaves
your long-term stylist. Well, no, it's true because you build up. It's a different kind of relationship. It's a very intimate relationship that you share with one's stylist / hairdresser / Turkish barber, and you get your hair just the way you like.
I can just go in and say I just go in. He sits down. He spins me around in the chair.
Bonjour,
he says, Gary. He says hello. As usual, and I say yes, please, Johan, and he cuts me as usual.
And then he goes, "Be our guest, be my guest, put my service to the test. What are your napkins?"
Yeah, he's actually a teapot. he's a lampshade, a little lampshade. But he amazingly somehow still holds the scissors. He's a nice guy. I'm sad, but he's what can you do? I don't know. I might just grow it out.
Get another hairdresser. Just what you can do.
Well, that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to pay one at least £15, like I pay Johan.
50 quid. Guess how much I pay for mine?
Oh, well, I know how much you pay for yours. You pay about 35 quid for yours, something like that.
Keep going up. Keep going up.
Oh, yeah.
40. Yeah, no. But who looks the best? You decide.
Well, they're not viewers. That's the thing. Actually, on that point, this is a nice little plug. I'm just doing this very professionally. We will be doing a Twitch special to not celebrate, but to sort of the transition from series 2, which we're nearly at the end of, to series 3. So series 3, episode 1, we're going to review live on Twitch. You'll get to see us. You can interact with us live and just maybe insult us, and yes, you can say who looks best.
wear your best funeral suit for that.
I'll be wearing this. I'll be wearing this. We're in this.
No, I mean, I'm looking forward to that. It'll be nice to do something sort of live-ish.
Well, Miles and I met on radio. Our first love is radio, and we felt like Twitch shows is more like radio because you're being listened to live and you're getting feedbacks. If you don't know Twitch, by the way, it's like a live streaming service. It's like we're live. Well, we are live, and you can see us and you can hear us and you can interact with us. And I think it will turn into something different from a show review. It'll just become like, not degenerate, but just become sort of a discussion with listeners. And crap, but can't wait.
No, I can't.
No, I'm actually looking forward to it.
Well, something that I can't wait for is our discussion that we're about to have, which this week is on episode 50 that originally broadcast 9th of August in 2003. Handling the heatwave nudist chat, frontal shots of sprinters, monkey news, chimp, prostitute, and Karl laughs on air. I'll put a link into the description, which you can then listen to. And then when you're ready, you can come back to us for a little debrief. Oi, oi.
Should we do that little thing we always do?
Yeah.
Should we do? Oh, hi.
Hello.
Welcome back.
God.
That's good. 'Cause you went away and came back again.
Yeah, and then they came back. So, Gary, what did you make of this episode in question?
Gary checks notes. Well, it was a good episode. It wasn't my favorite. There wasn't a lot to kind of say. It's a difficult one to kind of give a review of because there were good parts and but there's a lot of knob. There's this heck of a lot of knob. And the thing I thought is what I don't like, and this is starting to creep in at the end of series 2, is that it's slightly contrived, the intro. Like, in fact, it's definitely contrived. Like the knob chat, like a lot of their chats, even in the intros, start very organically, particularly with Karl, but you could tell because then Ricky says halfway through, and they've been talking about knobs and it seems organic, but then Ricky says, didn't your girlfriend say something to you? I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was about gay stroke knob stuff. And so they'd obviously planned to talk about that because in view of the fact that he's going to ask Karl about what his girlfriend said, they'd obviously discussed it and planned it before the show. And it does come across actually quite a lot that, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's funny, the discussion they get out of it. And I'm not saying it's all planned, but it's starting at this period in the show to get a bit more planned. And that this is an example of that, the beginning of this show.
Yeah, well, it starts off a bit sort of flat, to be honest. I mean, talking about the weather, the nudists, it's just all a bit...
It's contrived,
it's just a bit sort of pedestrian. I don't know if you can get much out of that, as a son said to his mother's breast. But I sort of found there wasn't that much to say about this episode. It was just a nice little bit of filler. There are really little funny bits
filler,
in it. I mean, the first thing I like to say is I wouldn't mind a goulash for lunch. I actually think that is quite a good lunch meal. I've probably had that myself.
That's what I've had goulash. Goulash is just a stew of meat and potatoes and carrots.
Yeah, it's a Hungarian stew, isn't it?
I don't know if it's Hungarian, but you've obviously looked that up. Don't pretend you just coming up.
I knew that.
You've looked up.
Goulash is more like a generic term for like an Eastern European stew, but I think it's largely eaten in Hungary. I think I'm right there because my girlfriend's Polish, and it's all the same, innit? All the same sort of muck over there. But I think it's because it's the penultimate show. They're saying, Karl, are you going to go away? It's like, I'm bored with that. I told you to get bored of things. Okay.
It's got an end of term feel, not in a fun sense, but it's got like a sense of end of term, but not quite the end of term. Like, about a week before the end of term, where you're not on a high because it's right at the end of term, but you're also like kind of bored of it because you haven't had a break for like so many weeks, so many months.
That's it.
Kind of like end of term, like they're phoning it in a bit.
No, that's so true. But what did you make of Steve? Were you familiar with Steve Goff, the Naked Rambler?
Yeah, but I didn't know his name. I remember reading about him at the time. Yeah, I remember that. I pinned his picture up on my wall.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
quite lonely. What are my thoughts? Well,
on nudity.
It's socially constructed that we have an aversion to nudity. There's no natural element to it, so. I can't see it's too harmful, but obviously if you've got, once near my school, there's two girls got flashed by a man. Now that's back just in a coat, and he just opened the coat like naked. Now that's not because whereas Steve Goff was just most tasteful way I could say that. Steve Goff was just, hanging around, sort of his little John Thomas, just flapping around. I don't think it's doing anyone any harm. But yeah, he kept getting arrested and sent to court, and the judge kept saying, well, what he's doing here again? I remember the story at the time, like, you can't just do this. Okay, another 15 days in prison, another 30 days in prison, another 30, but it's not doing anyone any harm. So I don't think you should go to prison for it at all. That's one of my highlights of the episode, is where Ricky says about Karl saying, and it's in my favorite quotes actually, but the end bit is where he says, like, Karl's saying to me, he's got shoes and socks on, he's got a big backpack, he's got a hat on, he's not naked, he's just got his knob out. He's not nude, he's got his knob out. And I think that's very true. He wasn't doing it for sexual attention. If there's no sexual element, I don't bad.
No, it's just like a lifestyle choice. But it is weird, isn't it, how we have got this culture? Because then Steve will mention the same thing, how in the heat you do sort of, strip off, and you see lads, I've never been one of those lads to take my top off. I just can't. I wouldn't want anyone to look at me for, I'm not in any kind of physical state for that to happen.
No.
I just think it's quite embarrassing, really, to still walk around with your top off, especially when I've got
It's unfair, isn't it? It's unfair that men can and women can't. What's the difference? Like,
no,
I'm
they
not
can
saying,
though, yeah, but they can wear like underwear.
No, I'm not saying I want to see women walk around topless, by the way, before anyone says that. I'm just saying it's unfair that it's socially accepted that men can, whereas women can't. They got to cover up, I would go topless. I did go topless once when we were together, and you almost begged me not to take it off, but it was so hot. It was when we were on the beach one time, and I did take my shirt off. You took your shirt off. Yeah, it's we're recording around the same time as year as it was then, but it's nowhere near as hot now. But I hate the heat. Actually, that's one thing I can really relate to. So it's not entertaining particularly, but when they're talking about how much Karl and Steve, like how difficult the heat is, not so much Ricky, he likes it, but I totally get that. I can't stand the heat. And I can imagine in those big offices, like in that little room that Karl had to sit in, probably not fully air conditioned, as Ricky said, just sort of working away, not very pleasant.
No, I think as long as it's not raining, I'm pretty okay. I like the autumn is my favourite sort of season. I like those colours, and I like the mood and the vibe of the air. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. That's interesting, isn't it?
So is this your Tinder profile?
Okay, now we're talking about the weather.
I love the autumn. I love the autumn. I love the colours and they change.
On that note, where he says, "What did he look like with that old man with smart with smart shorts? It's like a little tortoise without a shell on." And that's exactly how he describes Rupert Murdoch on one of the phone calls to Ricky in An Idiot Abroad. There was just a nice little bit of synchronicity between the two of those things. I liked that as a little
he does.
fan find.
But Karl doesn't, funny you say that, because from this episode, because we've talked about the fact that Ricky uses stuff that happens on the show in his stand-up and in later life. And in fact, Tom Fordy and we were talking about that only last week, but quite a bit of his stand-up routine in this show. Like, it's a particularly and I don't have a problem with him taking from it, because it's ultimately his material. Like, even if Karl says it, he's kind of directing the chat, so it's okay. But yeah, it's kind of like, I've heard it before, because he's heard it on his stand-up, and I've heard it a million times. Let's just listen back to the podcast, but it gets a bit samey. Like, it's like
the Terrence Higgins
runs out of like it runs out. Yeah, it's all right. Actually, I quite like it, because he genuinely is like, that's proper laughter. Like, that's when Ricky used to laugh, and he used to really laugh, and he used to find stuff funny, and he can't help it. Every time I listen back to this episode, every time I see his stand up with that bit, I've heard it so many times. It's no, we're not saying, I don't think, I speak for you as well, and we're not saying this is a bad show. It's just not. And these are totally independent views that we have, because sometimes one of us likes it, one of us doesn't. Today, I think we both think it's in the weaker end. It's at the weaker end.
Yeah, I think so. Show. I think it's funny that you talk about, like, a lot of Ricky's stand-up was the apocryphal tales and myths and legends, things that Karl absolutely loves to read and learn about. And it's funny that then they would then go on to meet each other in sort of later life, they sort of cross paths, and you kind of get a sense that they were good for one another at the time. And Karl probably did open a lot of doors to Ricky and help him to develop his humour. Did one come first, or did the other one follow? I don't know.
Well, I think Ricky would have been fine without Karl. I think Ricky would be incredibly successful, just slightly less.
Do you think
so
he would have done
maybe
stand-up though
if he'd
without
never
Karl?
met Karl? Absolutely, yeah, he just would have. I think he would have, and he would have been a decent stand-up. I like credit Karl in a lot of things. He made what I think is his second best body of work with this show after The Office with Karl, and that we would have lost out on that, and that would have been a huge loss to the sort of small number of fans, you know, us dedicated lot that love the shows. But in general, the people who know Ricky's fame and things would have come from everything was spun off from The Office, and he would have done stand-up. I think he always would have wanted to. Been maybe a slightly different sort of stand-up, but certainly it's the other way around. You know, Karl has everything to thank in terms of his money, in terms of his bank balance at least, and his fame to Ricky. If I could go for a drink with one of them now, I'd go for a drink with Karl rather than Ricky. But it is clearly that way round. I think Ricky would have made it on his own anyway, and it would be unfair on Ricky to kind of say that he wouldn't, just because we don't like how he's kind of carries on now.
Towards the middle of the episode, where something that always makes me laugh is when Karl's having to have work done on his house, because he's such a practical guy with like these sort of mundane day-to-day like DIY issues are a really big thing for him, and they take over his life, and he gets so frustrated. I think Ricky's a bit arrogant when he says, how do we not know how a boiler works? It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, a bit. Yeah, it's you can't, as a normal tradesman, even a very, very skillful one, you can't fix a boiler. You're not allowed. You have to have a special like Corgi registration to be able to fix a boiler, which takes like a couple of years of college, I think, or university.
Yeah, my son-in-law, my brother-in-law, he's he fixes boilers. So I wanted to share with you, Gary, some boiler facts. Do you want some boiler facts?
Considering I should say how the rest of the show's gone, yes, why not? It'll only liven it up.
Okay. In a conventional steam-powered plant, a boiler consists of a furnace in which fuel is burned.
A furnace.
Furnace, yep. In which fuel is burnt, surfaces to transmit heat from the combustion products to the water and the space where steam can form and collect. All right, that's your first fact.
So there's more.
Okay, now moving on.
Go on.
Yeah. What's the most you've ever paid for low key maintenance at work? That's what I want to ask people.
You're asking me?
Because that doesn't, like, when bang the boiler and then Ricky's saying,
no, I've had a similar. Yeah, I don't pay for my maintenance because I rent, as you know, so I don't pay for maintenance. But the boiler's been very reliable, but one day it just stopped turning on. It just stopped.
Do you want some facts about boilers? I've got 3 of them left.
No. Listen, this is the fact. This is the only fact that should get on the show. Cut the other ones out. But I turned it off and on again. Eventually it worked, and then it stopped working completely. And a guy turned up. Eventually, my landlord arranged it, and he turned up and he just went into it. He reached to the back and he turned a little tap that's at the back. Turned it for 5 seconds. He said, "There you go. That's all you need to do." That's it. God. That's what you need to. I felt bad. I felt guilty. Like but you don't know unless it's because it's a boiler. And again, Ricky is arrogant because he's like, you need to know what you're doing with a boiler. And now when it stops, I know to do that little thing. And the reason it goes apparently is because one of my radiators leaks a little bit. But I don't want to tell my landlord because I don't want it replaced. I don't want the hassle. I literally do not want the hassle. So
you don't even want people in your house.
My boiler goes. No, I don't want people in my house. I don't want it. Get me up at 9. It's dark. If it gets dark, turn the light on.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that. It makes me think when I was living in my first flat in London, our toilet got blocked and we didn't really know why it was blocked. We tried everything to like unplug it, and I just thought, it's just something. I don't even know what we can do. We've tried everything. We tried bleach, we've tried plungers, we've tried everything, and like I couldn't go to the toilet, so I had to like just keep going to work. All of our conversations seem to always return to the lab.
Yours do. You love it.
All mine do. And then when the landlords came, I was like, right, I'm going to show him a piece of my mind. I'm gonna
a piece of yours. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you said mine.
Yeah. And I was like, right, no, seriously, watch this, because when he walks through those doors, he's going to be faced with, it's going to be like the gates of hell. And he walks in. He walks in. I'm like, hello, mate. You all right?
Yeah.
Do during tea or coffee,
I wasn't there, but I can vouch that that happened.
That is true, and I was thoroughly unimpressed. I mean, nothing. I was like, don't worry about the toilet, man. Don't worry, it's all good, But it was so embarrassing because then when he did eventually fix it, the bloke came, the plumber or whatever, and he literally just like put his hand down the toilet and pulled out like a tissue. And I was like, was that seriously it? That was like a month of fucking pain.
I've had my toilet blocked, like, and it was sort of, it doesn't block, but the water builds up steadily, so it's almost a full button. It's going to over. But I bought a plunger. You can't believe this of me because I don't do practical work at all. I have no idea what I'm doing. But I bought a plunger, and it does work if you buy a plunger from the Sears catalogue. Not the Sears. What's the catalogue they use? What's it called? Oh, we're on form today. Right, anyway, so that was and I think it never kind of takes off.
Well, that show or this show?
That both, but ours could 50 episodes in, this particular episode. Rick Waller chat, okay, all right, they return to it a lot. They touch on the Elephant Man, but don't go too much into it. And I thought I always like Elephant Man chat, so I'd have liked a bit more of that. It just kind of piddles out into an average episode. In fact, favourite quotes. Sometimes with favourite quotes, when it's an episode I'm not that much a fan of, I've still got 10. I've got 6 here, 6, 7. If you compare it to any other radio show, most other radio shows, it's still well above them in terms of quality, if you know the XFM shows, but it's not. It compared with the XFM shows, it's at the lower end. I quite like the songs and phrase. I think it's a funny one, like just not in terms of what the humour they get from it, but the actual construction of it, like Galileo, just like all the different songs, it just goes from one thing to the next. I quite like hearing that, but that's a small point.
There are a couple of little observations that Steve makes about Karl, and little confessions that Karl says about himself that just expose his character a little bit. And I always quite like those things when you sort of get to see the true person. Not that Karl is anything but forthcoming with the way he is and the way he acts. I think we've talked about it before, but Karl getting bored with stuff, totally relate to that. And I love the fact that he doesn't treat this job as like the be all and end all. Like nowadays, that job would be like so sought after. People would be literally cutting off their left leg to work there.
I still think Karl wouldn't be. But
he doesn't. But he just took everything in his stride. It was just a job to him, and I loved that he was treating it so normally, because just shows what sort of person he is, that he doesn't really get daunted, or he's not really confronted or scared of anything. I mean, look at the stuff he did in fucking An Idiot Abroad. But what I liked about the thing that Steve says is the thing about Karl is he speaks with such authority about things he knows about. When you tell him about, of course ghosts exist, can't be bothered with that argument. And then he says he did all this learning about 12. Yeah, but I'm still picking things up. And it's so true, isn't it, with Karl and the way he sees
some of my favourite quotes. Yeah, it is true. Also, I should say, I just remembered there is a great bit to this episode, which is Karl laughing at the end, which is always a lovely treat. Right, but actually, that Karl laughing bit, we all love it, I think. Everyone listening to this probably likes that moment. But I often think, like, if Karl was like that, which is a normal reaction to have to reading out every Monkey News, or to doing every sort of bit that Karl does, to laugh like that, even if he's not part of the conversation, but just to off mic, you hear him laughing. That's what most producers would do. If he was like that, if he did that, there would be no mystique to Karl. There would be no kind of legend that's built up around these shows thing. Nothing would have happened. Like, we wouldn't be doing this podcast now, which is no tragedy, I know, but like no one would look back on Karl like really, really fondly, because part of why we love him so much is that he doesn't laugh actually at normally funny things. Now, because he doesn't laugh ever, it's actually quite funny when he does laugh. But if he always reacted like that, it just wouldn't be kind of special.
Well, it's like, do you remember what he said? I think he said it a few times in interviews, like, what makes you laugh, Carl? And says, oh, just little things, you know, things that aren't supposed to make you laugh. Like I was watching a woman with her baby in a pram, and she was walking along, and she tripped, and the buggy fell over, and the baby fell out. And I was like,
Has he said that?
I would laugh at that. I mean, it's that thing of, is it rambunctious? To be rambunctious to me, it's the things you shouldn't laugh at. The funny, like I've always got a problem with if I've got a friend who's crying, can't help but to like a little Cheshire. The cheeks just go up a little bit. I know it's dreadful, but I can't take people's crying seriously.
No, it's true. Mars can't take emotion seriously.
I don't like it. It really makes me feel really uncomfortable.
But this is an example of that, because actually what Carl's laughing at, and I think it wasn't like just some weird thing where he's laughing because randomly and he doesn't laugh at all these funny things. But he knew in his head he had that line, and usually he gets through this without laughing. But turns out they're mechanics anyway in the first place. But that is so ridiculous that he knew that was coming up, and kind of he said it's because look at Ricky, but Ricky will always be looking like however he looked. I'd love to have seen Ricky at that moment, but I don't think it's because of that. It's just
what was he doing? What was he doing?
Oh, I just think he was just looking like pent up with Ricky, like just.
I've been listening so hard recently. I was trying to hear like lip noises or moving chair, and I could hear a moving chair. I could hear some lips smacking, and I was thinking, is he just getting his knob out and wiggling it around? I was like, but who the hell would do that? But some men have a strange, obscene habit of that. They do, though, don't they, guys? They like.
Yeah, well, Ricky does. We know Ricky does. Because he did it, he's done it to Steve, and Steve says he's done it to everyone. You know, nowadays he'd get cancelled for that.
Yeah,
quite rightly, by the way.
Carl does have that sort of cheekiness to him, because he says, "Oh, we did Cheeky Freak of the Week. You know, I know some people didn't like it, and he nearly gets through an apology saying, "Did you watch that? Who are you staring at?" Which I'll put a link in the description.
Oh yeah,
I did actually.
No, I think.
Because I was just going to say, because I did actually find a link to that, and you can read some articles.
Don't post it. No,
I'm not going to post that. But I'm not that one that you're thinking of. He nearly gets surprised. Like, oh, did you see it as bad? And it suddenly makes you feel bad that what you suddenly forget, they're not real people you're talking about. And then he just can't resist. Right at the end, he says, like, "Ball selector."
Yeah, I know. Well, just the funny line is sometimes it's hard because they don't look like real people. Because I keep wondering, because last week they mentioned her, and very briefly, and I was thinking it was going to be that week when I was listening to the rest of the episode. I was thinking, I must have got that wrong. And then this week they bring her up as well. But there's a week where Steve says, I think it might be next week, was she's a bigger person than you. Certainly head-wise, he adds really naughtily afterwards, and I thought that was going to be this week, because when I heard that, I was thinking, well, isn't that when they do it? I think it might be series 3 though, but I can't remember that. But yeah, that's very very harsh.
Oh, I mean, there are just things that don't. I mean, that was bad at the time. It's even worse now. I think it will be interesting to see what people like nowadays who are totally fresh to Ricky's comedy. Imagine they'd never seen The Office or Extras or the XFM. How you would take him on like face value nowadays? Like, you know, if you're just a casual Netflix viewer checking into Afterlife, do you think that is his audience now?
I think a lot of people who like Afterlife wouldn't have liked The Office.
Well, it's like what Tom was saying, you know, that he was kind of really formative during those teenage years. You know, there was a whole generation of men who spoke like Ricky and who took on his mannerisms. And I count myself as one of those people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a guy, my manager at the office, when I got a new job, this was about 2009, and he said, he just turned to me one day, he said, "Look, so are you a real big fan of The Office? Because you keep saying 'in a way' at the end of every sentence, 'in a way,' and I just couldn't. I didn't even know I was doing. I wasn't doing it to be like copy him. I just couldn't. I just love that phrase. So it was only to myself. It doesn't make sense in context. It's not like a funny line to other people. No. But it's just so funny to me.
It's kind of on a similar thing. I don't know if he's ever said it. I had a little catchphrase at school which was controversial, and now I just think back and I go. It really makes me wince, like, to be the guy with a catchphrase at school, like, but that is almost something. But that is something that Ricky would have said, you know, something like that, you know, controversial, you know.
Yeah, that must be a line from The Office then, because I can't think of it.
I don't know if it was, but
um,
definitely you carry those things with you, and you even hear it now, like with some DJs and presenters I listen to. You're like, okay, that's an Office fan. Okay, I know exactly where you've gone. And but then it's kind of fun, isn't it? If you can go around your day-to-day life, just pick up on these things. It's quite satisfying, isn't it, in a way?
Yeah, so I think we've we don't need to kind of do something to death. I think we've covered the main points. Any other any little bits and pieces from that episode you wanted to talk about particularly?
Yeah. The first boiler
is a rhetorical question
with a safety valve was designed by Denis Papin of France in 1679. It's good to know.
Okay,
isn't it?
There'll be another one of them coming a bit later in the show. We'll do our favourite quotes.
Welcome back, everyone, and this is the Trout Spinners. Still to come, we've got our favourite quotes. We've got maybe more boiler facts, if you want some of them. And we've got XFM in the community, where you send us your feedback and we read it out on air and that stuff.
Yes.
We've also we pick a song each. Oh. And do you know what? I actually haven't got a song to pick this week. I'm going to have to just have a quick skim of my Spotify and see my most listened to and see whatever is going to be there. We're going to just put it in, and it could just be anything. And I'm a bit scared because I listen to some absolute strange music when I work. Just the strange. I've had such a power ballad week. I don't know. I've been seriously. It's been
no,
quite
I've got to say,
really.
I've downloaded My Heart Will Go On.
Shut your mouth.
I did.
I've been listening to Celine Dion. That is so funny. Okay.
Well, yeah, anyway. I genuinely did. It was going to go in this week, but no, I've got another one to go in.
Okay, let's see if we can do snaps on any of our favourite quotes. So what's your first one?
We've already covered it. He's not nude. He's just got his knob out.
Excuse me, miss. Could I just lift your left tit up so I can see your belt?
Yeah, that's it. This is you have to remember the exact bit. You don't have to remember, but it's so. I just love the way he says it. Well, it's like he says well, but he's like Karl's.
What is that? What's that for?
I can't remember the exact bit. I can't remember what's just come just before it, but it's like Karl's way of replying. Where he likes to reply without actually saying a reply.
Oh yeah, I think
very
so.
Funny. Yeah.
A bit of stew and steak. And I don't know why that makes me it's a very
hungry.
Well, no, not even that. It's a very graphic image, that.
Well, just the fact she couldn't chew it as well.
No, but
it's gristly.
No, she's saying oh right, yeah. I was just thinking about the thing that I'm assuming he thought it looked like.
No, I think it's just stew and steaks, just chopped up randomly.
I
like that one either. Oh no, I didn't want that either.
Karl, what's that on you? Don't worry about that. Pages.
So it's the best man. Did the speeches? No, that's not in my quotes, but I did like. This is one of my favourites. In terms of Ricky putting on his little voice for his little characters. I've quoted this to you before. I love it. Doctor, you butcher. You're not a doctor, you butcher. He doesn't say you are not a doctor.
Have you got a bent coat hanger, mate? Which
yeah.
I can't believe that can be used as a device to open something. Like in the film, they either do that or they do that thing in a car to start the car. They get two live wires from underneath the wheelie wheel. That I'm gonna call it the wheelie wheel. The thing to drive your car,
the steering wheel.
That's the one. But they do the two wires that buzz together. I mean, that is surely an urban myth. That can't possibly work.
What, to start a car?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that works. Yeah, definitely.
I was listening to Atletico Mints, which is great. I mean, everyone should listen to Atletico Mints.
Not as good as us. Don't buy Atletico Mints, buy the Trout Spinners.
Apparently you can there's certain pips in fruit that contain some cyanide.
Arsenic.
That's to kill a rabbit.
There is cyanide in fruit pips, so I don't think it's enough to kill a rabbit because we'd know about it.
Also, he says, children. Eye droplets, what you use to keep your eye lenses in. Apparently that stuff, because if you were to drink that, it would really do some damage.
Well, apparently, I think it's because it's very pure water. If you were offered a cup of water that wasn't pure and had a lot of like sort of stuff in it that wasn't water, or a glass of pure water, it could kill you, the pure water, if you drunk enough of it, because our bodies aren't ready for pure water. They need those imbalances and imperfections. God, this is getting a bit.
Well, your body's full of imperfections, so I think you're all right.
I drink a lot of pure water. Galileo. Well, it goes like this, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Galileo.
He can't be bothered. Because it's the last show, Ricky says, and they're just sort of wrapping up. You can tell they're in that sort of wrapping up mood. And it is actually a little bit shorter, this episode. He says, I'll have to come in and get some of these tapes. I mean, if only Ricky knew the kind of lasting impact the XFM shows would have had, that everyone kind of wishes they had everything. I mean, they have got them, but they would want even more than what they've got already. This next sentence is a long quote, but it sums up everything that's great about them three and the mood and tone of like this show. So sigh. What was that side for? Nothing. What? Ooh, Steve, Monkey News is on the way. This isn't radio. You've got to keep talking or playing music. Play some music? Yeah. It's just
play some music.
It's just everything's petering out. Just the flames are going
It's like
down.
that happens at the end of series 4 as well, where they really peter out into like that Live 8 show that Ricky did. It reminds me of that, but that's what I mean by an end of term kind of feel. Then they were always like that. They couldn't be bothered with the features. But one more. We've already done up. But I'm still picking bits up now. We've done it, but still, I love it. Yeah, but I'm still picking bits up.
Just 3 quickies for me. Sometimes, if he's moved by it, it's better than bloody Bobby Darin. I just love that impression.
Do you even know who Bobby Darin is?
No idea.
I barely know who he is. He's like one of those old love singers. Like he did those horrible ballads.
Turns out it wasn't a problem because there were mechanics in the first place. Because it had to be in there, didn't it? Let's face it.
Yeah, it's got to be in there. I didn't.
So, do you have a favourite quote? Do get in touch with us, spinnerspodcast@gmail.com, or on Twitter, Spinners Podcast, which is what these lovely bunch of people did for our next feature, which is.
Oh, that's professional.
Thanks.
Segueing into next feature.
Now you've got to say what the name of the feature
7.
is.
Go on. Oh, do you want me to? Oh, okay. This is XFM in the community, which Mars came up with and I named. This is where we go through your feedback, usually by email, sometimes by tweets, and usually it's Mars that reads it because I don't read. I do read
Can't
the
be
emails,
bothered to read
I
the
don't
email.
read them.
Ryan Wheeler says, "Hi guys, just wanted to say, fantastic idea it is to create this podcast. I've been obsessed with Ricky, Steve and Karl since I first listened to them with my mate circa 2004-05 on my iPod.
Wow, that's
on
a long
his
time
iPod.
ago.
Remember those? I do remember the iPod Classic. I still mourn it regularly. I loved my iPod Classic.
Are you sure about that? 2004? Was the iPod out in 2004?
Of course it was. They talk about it in the show.
2006.
They talk about it in the show.
Yeah, no, okay.
So he says, it's had such a positive effect on many people like no other podcast. It always makes me laugh even when I listen now.
Very nice. Thank you for that. I'd say, I think that's the longest out of any listener that I know of. There may be ones that we don't know of, but out of everyone I know of, that you started listening to the shows first, because 2004, I'm surprised that, I mean, YouTube... It's
like a year later.
Like, YouTube was barely online by 2004. I don't think it actually was until 2006. So YouTube wasn't out. You must have got the shows from somewhere.
I guarantee
that's crazy.
YouTube's much earlier than you think.
It started in 2006.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
Trust me, YouTube did not start in 2006.
It did.
No chance.
That was the first video. 2005 latest, but 2006 certainly wasn't 2004.
I'm just going to do a quick check on that because I'm like.
Yeah, you can confirm what I've just said.
Okay, I'm just checking. All right, moving on.
Yeah, what was it, Mars?
Let's not worry about it.
When was the first video? No, go on, say because you just said.
It's 2005.
There you go. That's so
annoying.
It wasn't around 2004. I knew it wasn't. I'm older than
so
you.
Annoying.
Remember, I'll tell you why those roadworks happening as well, because it's the end of year, so they want to get their budget end of the financial
Fucking
year.
hell! I think I forgot. I thought I was reading.
I thought they put it down.
Okay, Karl Kiowa says, "Hey guys, just writing in to say that YouTube recently recommended your podcast. I assume because I've been doing my umpteenth re-binge of the old XFM shows. I'm loving that you've captured the niche of doing analysis of these old episodes because though I know there's a big fan community specifically for the XFM shows online, I've never heard it vocalized like you guys are doing. I'm only on my first episode of Trout Spinners," Ricky voice, "the Detroit Spinners, but actually really enjoying it. So thank you, Karl. I hope you enjoy the episodes to come, and you'll probably be surprised when this gets read out when you get Karl Kiowa.
Karl Kiowa. Karl's the exact sort of listener we have that kind of thinks that at the beginning, and then Karl, we'll never hear from Karl again. So Karl, if you did stick with us, do let us know, because it does mean a lot. Like if you sort of have found one and liked it, probably the Dickie Anders episode, and then if you stick with it, that's even better.
The first episode, no, it's good, and it's good to see that YouTube is employing its algorithms to spread the good word of the podcast, because I do want more listeners to this show. So please do tell your friends about it, and like and rate and subscribe and review and all that sort of stuff and that.
Tell and lose your friends at the same time about this podcast. Did we put out, because we put out the first of our Patreon specials, did you put it out on YouTube as well, by the way? You should do that. Well done.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
don't worry, man. Does it all, doesn't he?
He's got his glasses on, he's organised. His fingers and thighs.
Levi Collins. Hi guys. I hope you remember me, Levi, your possibly youngest listener. I do remember you, Levi.
Do you remember?
I was 16. I'm 17 now and a half. I emailed in to say, imagine being 17.
Imagine being any age where you can add half to your age legitimately. Like I can't say I'm 34 and a half. I'm sorry, I'm not 34. I'm 37 and a half. God, that was a mind blank. I got 34 for a second. I can't say I'm 37 and a half,
Gonna be friends with like a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
Crazy,
well,
isn't
not
it?
friends. Colleagues. Right now.
Podcast goes. I've now listened to all 4 series many times, listened to hundreds of compilations, the podcasts, the specials, and most of your episodes. I'm really looking forward to your thoughts on the Canfield episode, as it's one of my favourites. That's a controversial opinion, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't listened to it really hardly at all. Compared with how much I've listened to other episodes, I haven't listened to that one that much. So I'm not a fan, but I'm generally not a fan of that episode. But we'll see when we come to it. I'll give it a full and thorough review.
I will tell. I mean, I feel the same. Loads of people, the whole ongoing debate whether the Claire Sturgis episodes are skippable or not. I personally think they're really good.
Oh no, they're gold.
But then I'm probably with you actually. I've ignored it too many times and should go back. So series 3 also contains one of my favourite quotes. Man changes name to blah 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 blah. Yeah. I first heard that on a train and just laughed and laughed so loud for ages. I listen to your podcast every day when I walk to work. If you could give a shout out to Gulliver's Valley theme park in Rotherham, that would be great.
Is he a tightrope walker? What does he do?
I hope so. Or maybe he just takes money for the Dodgems.
But no, it's so nice. We've got listeners in your generation and that you've discovered the shows as well. Like as by the shows, I mean the XFM shows, not our shows necessarily. But yeah, that's fantastic.
I think we should go and visit Levi in Gulliver's Valley theme park.
Well, we get a free ride on the merry-go-round. We're
going to be sitting at the bottom. I don't really do rides. I think I'm sitting at the bottom with
that's any. You could take us to any location. Anything could be going on around. We'd be sitting at the bar.
I'd buy some candy floss, maybe.
We've been to just right by the London Eye. We've never as if we queued to go on. No, we're at a bar. We're at a nearby bar. We've been at the most luxurious bar. We only went because of his birthday. We don't usually go to bars, but it's we went to this spot as a one-off. We were at the bar.
A few questions for you. What are your favourite Rockbusters, favourite Educating Ricky, and favourite Carl's News headline?
Oh, Levi. Favourite Monkey News is probably that there's no car at Pump 4. I like that so much, that line, that I could encapsulate. This encapsulates the entire show for me, the entire show. Although it's funny because Ricky doesn't laugh at it, I still love it. Favourite, what did he say?
Favourite Rockbusters, favourite Educating Ricky, and favourite Carl's news headline.
Oh, he didn't even ask about monkey news. Okay, well, there you go. There's my favourite monkey news for free. I didn't listen. Favourite rockbusters? I think Brian Ferry, and the other ones. That week, I just remember, is a brilliant week for rockbusters. I think it's my favourite. In terms of the humour they get out of it. In terms of the cleverest clue, I think it's buy it if you want. I'm not bothered. I'm not first. Come back next week. That's a brilliant clue. That's genuinely a fantastic clue. I wish I'd come up with that myself. Educating Ricky, Shadow, DJ Shadow. I'll tell you, because he doesn't actually, it's not official for Educating Ricky. It's just that they happen to have DJ Shadow tickets. And it's like they mentioned DJ Shadow. I was, well, can we get anything about Shadow? And Carl's like, and it's totally unplanned. Carl's like, actually, I can tell you something about Shadow. Like he's got this fact about a shadow. Like, it's just so random that no one else you know has got that. And that's back in the days when the show wasn't at all contrived. And it still isn't largely. And my favourite, what were the three things again? What are the three options? If Don't Know wasn't there, what would you say? What were the three?
Okay, Rockbusters, Educating Ricky, Carl's news headline. Do you want to hear mine?
Cow. I think you can't look too far beyond cow hit by train lands on farmer's wife. I think you've always got to have that up there. It's always got to be up there somewhere.
I like the week where it's the Educating Ricky where Karl has to sort of do the whole Ricky thing of, oh, look over there, there's a monster, where his electric eels have 400 volts in them.
Yes.
And the same with do you know why it's called Mount Everest? It's because it's a large mount, and when you get to the top, you've got to have a rest.
Yeah.
And what does he say when he wants to back out of that one? So well, we'll leave that. No, Karl, in what way do you think it was called have a rest?
Well, never been my favourite.
And it's, again, not related to mountains, but in what way? Telling me that Brian Blessed shit himself.
Yeah, that's good. No, good question, Levi. I like it.
And he finishes up by saying, "Keep up the awesome work, and I hope you get Sturgis on."
Thank you. Thanks. So, we do too. But on that, we've got actually. I don't think we should say it today.
I think we can. Let's say.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, shall I say?
Okay. Yeah. Go.
Even though Miles organised all of this, so we've actually we haven't got Sturgis. We'd love to get Sturgis still to this day. We're still trying, but not stalking. But Miles has tracked down someone who isn't directly related to the XFM shows, but when I tell you his name, you'll think
he's a bigger name, smaller person.
He's related. Oh, that's clever. As I said earlier, be on live at the Apollo. You'll understand why we've got him on. He's very linked to Ricky, Steve, and Karl. It's Warwick Davis. So that's all right.
So all right,
Warwick Davis. So Warwick Davis, we haven't agreed fully, but that's the reason I didn't want to say it, because we don't know yet whether he can do next week. So we could have said close to the time when we've got a date agreed. But yeah, basically Warwick Davis is going to be on the show. And yeah, we're super excited. Are we not?
He's definitely going to be our most famous guest on a superficial level, isn't he? Like Hollywood actor, movie star, been in loads of big franchises, blockbusters. Not only that, but very, very close connections to Ricky, Steve, and Karl. With the Life's Too Short, and also, travelling.
Yeah, and that's why we've got him on. Not because, the fact he's a Hollywood superstar. Well, he's a Hollywood. He's a very big Hollywood star. The fact that we wouldn't just get someone on, or just try and get someone on because of that fact alone. But the fact is, he's got incredibly close ties with Karl. He's been around the world with him. He has very close ties with Ricky, with Life's Too Short, and Steve as well. Yeah, Warwick Davis next week.
That's going to be good. And our last comment is from longtime Troutty Steve Weller. Nice to hear you little fellas back on the air. A great show as usual. And that episode you cover has some real highlights. Can't remember which show this is we're referencing, but the little Chinese fella discussion, Steve's comment about how you cannot scroot a Chinaman nor Chinaman woman is so funny. And that edition of Monkey News is one of the absolute best. The songs and the phrase is outstanding too. And I did actually, do you know what? That episode, I think this is okay to talk about. Did you ever have a Chinese friend at school? Or an Asian friend at school?
There was an Asian guy, but I've lived with a Chinese man. I had a friend.
Holy fuck! Which one?
No, his real name was like Seaway or something, but he called himself Will, because a lot of them do. I'm not to say a lot of them, but it sounds like I'm lumping them together. But a lot of them use English names. No, but he was called Will Do. As he used to say, will do. And it was great because he got a job at McDonald's the year I lived with him. and they got a job at McDonald's, which is down the road. And McDonald's basically, at the end of the day, if stuff isn't sold, I mean, in 30 minutes they track it out, but if stuff still hasn't sold like that they've prepared, they give it to all the staff. So he would come home with cheeseburgers, like all sorts, like just mounds of like, oh, McDonald's. I didn't particularly like McDonald's, but you know, it's great to have like this free flowing supply of burgers.
Free chips.
But no, he was a funny guy, and yeah, I like Will, but I've lost contact with him over the years.
What was it? His race that did it for you?
No, I want to clearly state no.
I was friends with an Asian guy actually, and but he had a very strong Suffolk accent, and there's just something very strange about an Asian guy having a very, very strong. Yeah, all right, how you doing? It's really weird. You know when you've just got an accent. And a nationality, or it could even just be a face. You're just like, no, how does that?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Will like, yeah, it can be funny, like when someone, because they've been brought up by Chinese parents.
It's like if you laughed, I wouldn't expect it.
No, I know. Well, it's because you know you're so effortlessly hilarious and entertaining. That's why. But Will, I guarantee, if it's a Chinese student who's come over to study and they can speak fluent English. So they come over to study. I guarantee they'll have an American accent, not just because Will did, but that's how they learn English, through Friends and through American TV shows. And you'd think he was American, raised in America, never been to America in his life. American accent. I've known other people like that.
Yeah.
So it tends to be an American accent. That's my Chinese fella fact.
Okay, fascinating. If you've got any Chinese,
thank you though, Steve. Thank you though, Steve. I appreciate your email.
Well, he does wrap it up by saying, "Nice to hear Hemsby get a mention. I went there for about 10 years ago, back in the 80s, 90s." For family holidays, and I bet it's not changed
30 years ago,
either.
mate.
Yeah,
it's 40 years ago, nearly.
This was a reference to my previous holiday, if you can call it that, going to Hemsby in North Norfolk. But I have very fond memories of that place, he says. I must say, Great Yarmouth is a very weird place. I've never seen so many people who look the same anywhere else. Carl would love it there. It must be. That's
basically where Mars is from. So you insult Mars.
I mean, it kind of is, you know. So.
And if you insult Mars, you insult me. All right? I don't care, but I don't give a shit. But you insult Mars, you insult me. No, it's I used to go to Great Yarmouth quite a lot as a child. So I've been there. I don't remember people looking the same or otherwise. Yeah, I've been to Great Yarmouth. Oh yeah, boy.
I mean, they do look the same. It's very...
the arse of Britain, the arse of the East Anglia.
It is.
Well, that's my name for it.
But I've not heard a reference to that before.
Oh well, I may have been other people may have said, but I just
the arse.
But it does look at it.
It does look a bit like an arse, and
a bit like an arse. Reading an arse. But I think that's it, other than to choose our songs. Now this is very exciting this week. Mars is just going to randomly flick through his iPod.
Okay, cool. Let's well, I'm not going to randomly pick. I'm just I'll tell you my thought process. I'm going to go on my home and I'm just going to
sorry.
I'm just going to check what I've been listening to recently. Okay.
You're here. There's nothing I fear. Shall I pick mine first?
Go on. You go.
I don't think I picked this. You tell me, because I've always done this. I always pick ones that I picked before. Great song. This isn't just generic because of the band, they're a big band. ABBA, Thank You for the Music.
It's a good song.
Such a good song.
I'm not a dancer. In fact, I'm a bit of a bore. I
mean, it's weird. It's a weird start to a song as well, but it's actually just got the best chorus.
But I've got a talent, the one and the thing that everyone listens when I start to sing. Oh, do you know what? I was so glad the other day because I was meant to go to karaoke with my friends. Now, if you were to go to karaoke with friends, how many people would you say is the bare minimum that you need to go with?
Oh, well, you know who you're speaking to, don't you?
I know who I'm talking to.
You're involving different elements here. Karaoke, friends, they're all going out. There's all things that is not from my area.
I know.
I don't know, about 4 or 5.
Right, okay, correct answer, because one of my friends unfortunately got COVID. We're booked to go in last Friday, and actually I'm kind of glad because I was a bit tired. Well, no, it's true. It's true. No, you're right. 4 is the absolute bare minimum that you need to go to karaoke. I'd challenge anyone to come back at me on that.
I don't know. Can I just say, when you go to karaoke, do you go there and then there's like other groups of like friends?
No. So there's like
karaoke?
rooms.
Or do you book a karaoke room?
Yeah, you
yourselves?
get book a private room, and you can do that in a lot of places.
Massage.
There's no massages, but you can order like a shot. You can order shots and gin and tonics to your room and stuff. And yeah, so
hang on, you haven't finished the story. What? Someone suggested it just be you two.
No. So we were meant to go. Then one of my friends got COVID, so we couldn't go. So there was 3, and I was like, oh, we're gonna have to call this off now because this is going to be awkward. It's just something
costs a fortune as well to hire a room.
No. It's like 22 quid for 2 hours. Not bad. Not that bad, is it?
£22 for a 2-hour karaoke.
But no, so yeah, I like that. What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
You're just talking about karaoke. I don't know. You're just because you were singing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. That's it. Okay, so we did George Michael last week. Didn't we? So this week, I found this new romantic playlist on Spotify, which I quite like to listen to. And the last song I was listening to was "The Promised" by When in Rome.
Don't know anything.
It was. I mean, to be honest, I couldn't tell you another song they did, but I do quite like the whole new romantic movement, and it does make me think. Like, I imagine my mum was a bit of new romantic, and I do quite like the thought of my mum as that. And Ricky obviously talks about it. It's a good song, actually. I do recommend people listen to it. I mean, it's good music to sort of have your little pre-drinks to and have a little dance if you want.
I genuinely enjoy it. I only did it a few times, but I liked when I was at uni in halls, we were going out and you just mix in halls. There's everyone there, and this girl just came up. She's like, let me just do this, and she just put eyeliner on me. And I looked at it, I thought, that looks pretty good. And so I've worn eyeliner out. I like it. Not that there's any need to explain it away, but I don't do it anymore. But I quite like the eyeliner look. I can see why it's appealing for women to do, but men should do it as well. Like, it's just as satisfying. And I thought, I suddenly brought out my eyes, because my eyes are my whole personality. Tiny, they're like dead shark eyes.
God,
yes, okay, I know they're dead shark eyes. You said, yeah, we've got it out. You don't even need to say.
Okay, good. But yeah, imagine a shark with a little bit of eyeliner.
Well, you can see on Twitch, and you can see what we look like.
Yeah, when we do Twitch. But listen, that's all the XFM in the community, and that's all we've got time for this week, I'm afraid, guys. Bit shorter one this week. I'm a bit disappointed, but I think it's par for the course, isn't it? Sometimes you get loads of stuff to talk about. Actually, I've got a little something I can mention now. Your boiler accounts for 60% of your household's annual energy costs. How efficient they are has a huge impact on your outgoings. So, to ensure your boiler is running most efficiently, book a boiler service.
Okay. I'm just going to go and do that right now. I hope they're still open at sort of 7:15 in the evening on a Friday.
What are you going to do for your rest of your evening? What you got planned?
Well, I've got to have a phone call with someone undisclosed, a close person to me, and then I don't know. I'll probably a bit of this.
He's got, again, the three boxes of crisps, all McCoys.
Let me just explain this, because you said this last week. It's true, there are free. But I ordered.
We said it on the page. Can we? You might need to clarify.
Sorry.
Said this.
Well, then there's a good advert there. You go and join us on Patreon. You can hear me talking about my mountain of crisps. But basically, I've got 3 boxes, and I ordered them on like time lapse. So they were supposed to turn up once a month, but 2 turned up together, and then the 3rd one came. So I don't know. I only paid for 1.
So you got a tower of crisps.
I've got Tower of Crisps.
The McCoy's Tower in Gary Mansions.
It's Walker's Max as well.
Oh my God, they're just such heavy crisps. I don't know.
So nice. I ate them at night.
You got to listen to Bob Mortimer on the Off Menu podcast with James Acaster and Ed Gamble. he talks about I told you this on the phone earlier, didn't I? About you could use some of those crisps, add some water, and make a mashed potato paste. And apparently, it's meant to
I wouldn't be surprised if he did actually do that.
He did do it, and he said it was.
No,
all right.
I believe it. I totally believe it. He's not stingy in any way, but he told this elaborate story about doing his own dentistry. And I know, I'm sure, as David Mitchell says, he always says, I'd never believe quite all of that story, even when it comes out that it's true. Like, I'd never quite believe everything. So it wasn't all true, but he basically sits on this gamer's chair on his puts it on his kitchen worktop because they've got a really strong light that's just above that area, and he holds this mirror, gets a mirror that's pointed down, and he does his own dentistry.
It's just bonkers,
it's crazy.
Isn't it?
He's lovely.
He's fucking crazy.
Not that
I think I don't think that's saving money. I think that's more like I can't be bothered to go to the dentist.
It's just I know, but it's just odd, isn't it? I love one line. Just we can leave it on this. He said on "Would I Lie to You?" It wasn't a like true or false thing. It was just something he said. He's like, yeah, I used to have, and I believe this the way he said it. He said I used to have 16 sugars in my tea because they were saying basically he got his teeth out. He said, look at these, all these are fake, and they're fake. He hasn't got any teeth. Basically, he's got no teeth, but he's got fake ones put in by a dentist. And he said, yeah, I used to have 16 sugars in my tea, and they said 16. How could you? You had 16 sugars in tea? Yeah, it's like 16. Yeah, 17 too sweet for me. But 17 too sweet for me. Oh, that's a great line. And on that, we will see you with hopefully, and now it might not be next week, but it will happen. But hopefully next week we will see you with Warwick Davis.
See you later. Bye-bye.